I have what may be a little surprise for you, or actually it's just a reminder. What we're actually doing is we're editing the template that came with QuickBooks. Now that may not be a bad thing, but some people might go, oh, well, I just kind of messed it up, and what if I want to go back? Well, I'll give you a few hints on that. The first is that I can go to the bottom of any of these dialog boxes we've been into, and I can click on Default. It says all the changes you've made will be discarded, and it's going to go back to the way that it was. Is that okay? Yes, it is. And now I basically can start over from scratch. But what other options do I have? What if I want to get more creative than the options in these dialog boxes will allow? Or what if I have absolutely no creativity, but I would still like what looks like a custom invoice or a custom packing slip? Well, you have options, and here they are. Also at the bottom of this dialog box is a button that says Layout Designer. This lets you basically become the designer yourself, and you're not limited to what checkboxes and drop-downs and things are available in the dialog. You can design, drag and drop, and format everything exactly the way that you want. I'm going to go ahead and give that a click. And it brings us into a screen. If you've ever used something like Publisher, PageMaker, InDesign, it's really not a lot different than any of those tools, so you don't need to be afraid of it. What we have is a gridded background, so you can lay things out evenly. We have a toolbar along the top that's going to give us some choices. We can see the properties for an item. We can add new items, including text boxes, data fields, or images. We can copy, we can delete, we can work with the width, the height, the size of something. We can work with centering things horizontally. And of course we have undo and redo, zoom in and zoom out. So it's all pretty simple. On the left-hand side of this form, you see a shaded area. And this can be important because the shaded area shows where on this 8.5 by 11 piece of paper your window would be if you used a window envelope. So instead of printing out labels, you can buy windowed envelopes and actually have whatever is printed here show through that window. That actually is going to be a really nice feature that we'll like to use, and you don't have to guess where is it. Now what I'm going to show you how to do is just a few things. You can come in here and play quite a bit. We don't have time to go through it all right now, but as I said, it's fairly straightforward. If I select something, I can do so by just clicking on it. You see that when it's selected, it gets a border with little black sizing handles. The sizing handles allow you to resize. When you move over those, you get a double-headed arrow, and you can drag in and out or up and down to resize them. Let me go ahead and select my company name. Notice that as soon as I do that, on the bottom left side of this window, it tells me what I have selected. This is the data field for company name. Well, now I want to know what the properties are, so I'll go back to the top and click the Properties button. There are 3 tabs here for text, border, and background. So currently it is left justified. I have the option to indent the first line. It's also vertically aligned to the top. I can make simple choices here. But probably what's more important to most of us is this is also where I can change the font and the color. So I'll click on Font. I'm going to start typing Comic Sans since that's a font that we worked with. You can see that it scrolls my list. That's much easier to use. And then I can simply choose the font that I want. Maybe make it a little bit larger so my company name really stands out. There's some special effects, although I'm not sure why you would want to strike out or strike through the name of your company. But I do want to change the color. And I'll go with our branding. We'll go ahead and make this maroon. I'll say OK. And that brings me back to the original dialog box. Then I'll click on the borders. And I can choose a variety of different borders, as well as having rounded corners and the patterns for the lines. I can also choose if I want to have a filled background. I don't want any of those for this particular item, so I'll just say OK. And you can immediately see that that is updated on my sheet as well. Now if you ever want to move things around, you can just drag them and drop them. You can see that I'm able to drag with my mouse to move things around and make sure that they're positioned correctly. That's very important because we know that a lot of things that we added may be kind of overwriting existing fields on this particular invoice. If you remember though, we also set this back to the default. So if we scroll down to the bottom of the form, we're going to see that those extra pieces of information that we originally included are not there. Well, that's okay because I have this Add button. I can say I want to add a data field. It gives me an option of which data fields I want to add. The ones with check marks are already there. The ones without check marks are not. I believe if I go all the way to the bottom of the list, because it is alphabetical, then I will see the website, and I would like to have my website on here. That's always a good idea, I think. I'll say OK. And it adds two different fields or two different controls, one that actually contains your website and one that is the label. You're not required to have labels, so I'm going to click off of that. That deselects. Then I'm going to click on the label, and then I'm going to press my delete key on the keyboard. It's now gone, but the data is still here, so I'll drag this down to the bottom, maybe position it near the left-hand side, make it a little bit larger, and then I'm going to go into properties. For this, I would also probably spend quite a bit of time making sure that it was consistent as far as the font and colors and things like that. But what I want to do right now is I want to remove the border. This originally came up with a box around it, and I don't want the box. So I'll take off the top, bottom, left, and right borders. I will also mention, though, that I do like having rounded corners. That's kind of a nice feature. I'll say OK. And now when I click off of this, you'll see that it no longer has the boxes around it like it did originally. So there are many, many things that you can do with this particular layout designer. The world is kind of your oyster. You can get creative. You can add text boxes. You can add shading. You can do rounded boxes instead of squared boxes. This is how you get a truly customized look to your forms. And you can do it with any one of the forms that you have. When you're finished making your changes, you go to the bottom right, click OK. That brings you back to this window, which is where we started so long ago. I'll say OK again, and OK one more time. And here we are back at our list. If you remember, we actually created a copy of the invoice, so I've been working with a copy. When the dialog box came up and said, by the way, if you want to do this, go into the advanced formatting, you have to make a copy. That actually took us out of the original invoice and made a copy of it. Now all I need to know is how do I use this particular one when I want to. But before I get into using forms for specific activities, I also wonder if there's any other resources that I can use. Maybe because I don't have the time, the energy, or the creativity to customize all of my forms on my own. Well, actually there is. I wouldn't have brought it up if there wasn't. If we come down to that templates button on the bottom left of the screen, you'll see that one of our options is to download templates. Now don't panic, when you click download templates, it actually is opening a little mini browser inside of QuickBooks. So if we look up at the title bar, we're still inside QuickBooks. We're now just looking at a web page for the Intuit community. We haven't talked too much about the Intuit community. It came up when we originally started working with the program and I turned it off. But it is always available from a variety of menus, and in this case it's giving us some forms. We won't go into all of these, but if you look over here at this list, we have different forms that we can download for free for credit memos, estimates, invoices, purchase orders, sales receipts, statements, and even donations. By simply clicking on the links, looking at what's on the website, and clicking the download button if you find something you like, you can download a variety of other templates that others have created, and then you don't have to take the time, the energy, or have the creativity to create them on your own. Now this is just a window within QuickBooks, so I can close this window when I'm done with it. That gets us back to our list. I will close the list as well. Get us back to our home screen where we're now ready to choose our new invoice to use for invoices that we create.